Hey there, adventurers. I'm sitting here with Travis Wuertz. Started life as a knife maker, went on to making knife makers' lives easier with the TW90 grinder, which you can see in the background here. We got a little Q&A with him. We're doing for Skillset Magazine. If you get a chance, pick one up. It's a really cool read. It's guys' magazine, alpha male mentality. There's guns, knives,
boobs,
fighting, boobs. I mean, there's a little bit of everything in there it's just for guys for the most part. But all right, you ready to get this started?
Yeah, I like the boobs.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with boobs. With so many farmers in your bloodline, what made you choose to take a different path?
I grew up on a one of those, little Arnold Palmer where he don't belong. All right, sorry about that. I should have done that a little bit earlier, but
oh, you're good.
Yeah, I mean, my family's farmed in Arizona, or Coolidge, Arizona, since 1929. When Great Grandpa come down with 4 sons, and they all started farming. I grew up on a farm. I enjoy living on a farm. I still live on a farm. My shop's on the farm, but I don't like making my living from the farm because I like designing and building cool shit.
Good answer. Good answer. Some might say that Ingenuity runs in your bloodline as well. Care to elaborate on that?
Actually, my family, as well as being farmers, actually have done quite a bit of innovation in their respective fields. I look at my Uncle Howard. He was a big pioneer of subsurface drip irrigation on multiple continents and holds multiple patents and the equipment to go along with it. And, different great uncles that did some great things. And even my brother, raising gourds, which might not be a technological innovation, but it's an innovation as far as saying, people will buy these things to do artsy, craftsy stuff with it. And he ships them all over the country and actually inspired, well, I guess I can do something in a niche market and do well at it.
Right. Do you still have the first knife you ever made?
Somewhere I still have the first knife I ever made. I don't think it doesn't have the original handle, but then I have most of those. A couple of them been lost for a few years and got refound after being run over by a tractor, but they still exist.
But that's something that living on a farm kind of adds to is
the
risk of running it over with a tractor.
Yeah, well, I found it in a tire.
Oh. Have you seen an evolution in your knife since embarking on the journey? And do you specialize in a particular style of knife?
I've always had an interest in knife making. From a little kid, and I started doing my real knife making at age 12, and then took my first lesson from a phenomenal American Bladesmith Society mastersmith, Tim Hancock, and just an amazing maker. He's been responsible for a lot of people's progression, and I could watch a lot of mastersmiths, and you can see them kind of going, their work was kind of going along here, and then all of a sudden something changed. And usually that thing that changed is they went and spent like a weekend with Tim or whatnot, and he's no longer making knives because of Parkinson's. But he's a big part in the design of my machines and design of the forging presses in my knife making methods, and that was the biggest help for creative any evolution, was having a good foundation from a phenomenal instructor. In the recent years, so much, it's more about progressing my methods and progressing the equipment, because the method is something of value, and I might not finish a whole lot of knives anymore, but I do like to think that I help a lot of people refine and bring their methods forward to where they can put out better quality, more productive, easier, and make a better living and a better product.
Right. What's your favorite type of knife to make?
I don't do too many knives anymore, but I like a knife that gets used. I never thought I'd like to make a kitchen knife, but with some advancing of methods and stuff, that became something that was very easy for me to do, and it's one of the most bangs per buck as far as work put into something to the enjoyment that somebody gets out. Right. Because kitchen knives are bisexual. Men and women like kitchen knives.
Yes, we do.
You're in the kitchen, and when you pick up a nice handcrafted item, and you're preparing, whether you're preparing a meal or whatever else, that knife gets appreciated. I like stuff like this, and I made this one about 19 or so, and it's cool, but when do you really go and use it? Right. So I like making stuff that gets used, and the grinders get used, the kitchen knives get used. somebody might use. I actually used the shit out of that bite, but you know, it's like I don't want to make a wall hanger.
Right.
It might make something worthy of being a wall hanger, but if it can't perform, then I ain't gonna make it.
Right. Who was your role model growing up?
I had a lot of, you know, very positive role models growing up, and of course, Dad, and a lot of creativity from Mom. You know, Uncle John's project buddy since I was a little kid. Yeah, and then you got Tim Hancock. That's a big deal. You know, I took my first lesson on my 13th birthday present, which makes that like 22 years ago.
Man.
And you know, and there is an individual that had a big part on fit, finish, quality, methods. You know, finish this before you move on to here, because it's not going to get easier. And so like there was a whole lot of things, and just overall quality, fit, and finish. That was a huge deal. But anyway, there's more than I can really list.
Do you feel that your particular skill set helps you in everyday life?
Well, it pays the bills.
Describe your college experience at U of A. Parties or work? And were you involved in any special projects while you were there?
Well, I spent the better part of a decade at U of A, and then a little bit more. But a lot of people go to college for a lot of people go to college for 4 years. They're called doctors. No. I had a lot of fun in college. Probably why I stayed 10 years. And but I didn't really have the typical college experience. From day one, I basically moved into the U of A machine shop and was making knives since my department head had bought, well, to date, probably 14, 15 knives from me. And so I had moved in knife equipment to U of A's machine shop from day one my freshman year. As a U of A employee, I built, you know, all kinds of prototypes for grad students and professors, which there's a lot of dumb professors out there. I didn't say that, but anyway, yeah, I built a lot of prototypes and stuff, so I didn't have that same college experience. I mean, hell, I drove a H1 to class because we had them for irrigator trucks to do biodiesel research, and I could park better than the professors could. And, you know, so I had a lot of fun in college, learned a lot of college, just not as much in class.
TW90. What inspired you to create the premier grinder that we have before us today?
I actually wanted a surface grinder. Didn't have a surface grinder. Figured I could make a surface grinder go on a grinder if I had a better grinder. So I made a better grinder so I could make myself a surface grinding attachment. So, yeah, I got tired of putting up with other people's shit and decided I'd make my own the way I wanted it. Just turns out other people did too.
Are there any other crazy ideas running around your head? Future products, improvements to it?
The crazy ideas don't really stop. You know, it's just a matter of which ones you let people know about. You know, I got to make it about 75% before I get an idea that's shareable. Mm-hmm. Because most people really don't have, well, you don't realize just how much time you put into thought, into anything. You know, once you go and share that with somebody, it's going to take a little while to catch up. And so usually it's like, all right, just, you know, down back there, you know, shut up, I'm trying to function. And because you have all little projects you're working on, you go, God damn, I just want to build some shit, you know. And yeah, working on a hydraulic forging press, working on essentially a mini grinder that uses more DC technology that essentially makes as much power as these guys, but the motor would fit in a coffee cup with room for coffee. Finished machine weighing at 20 pounds, making 2 horsepower and stuff. And then kind of like with the forge that we played with there, essentially working on refining that into essentially becoming a smart forge where it's as accurate as a heat treat furnace, but essentially can hit forge welding temperatures and tempering temperatures, and replacing another item in the shop, because when it comes down to building stuff, square footage is everything, and a tool has to earn its real estate. Even if somebody can afford a tool, doesn't mean they can afford the space to put it in, so every tool has to have merit. And so that's everything I design, it has to have merit. It's not a matter of coming in. It is a matter of coming in at a certain price, but it's also very important that the tool has a usefulness that buys the space that it takes up.
That's very well said.
Today we're just kind of playing with the power hammers, and I only used one. That one was made in 1954. The other one I have, I think, was built in 1929. The other one is actually, ironically, Stinger Welding and Manufacturing is the company that's actually cutting out my new forging presses. Well, ironically, the company before that bought it, and the guy before that was Wayne Roof, who had a blacksmithing shop, who my dad remembered as a kid driving by and hearing this bang, 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 which was that power hammer that we got when I was 13 for $200 and 2 knives. But it was on the same property that's now cutting out the forging presses. So I go, that's kind of a cool deal.
Kind of thing.
So here I'm using a power hammer at age 13 or whatnot, repairing it. You'd have to matrix duck because there's a big ass spring that fly out every now and then. And so you had to kind of be on your toes, where a press is a little bit safer. And also the bang, 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 bang doesn't necessarily go over very well in an HOA. Not that I'd ever consider living in an HOA. I'd have to bury too many neighbors. But so a forging press being a lot quieter, being a lot more precise, and being something that a lot more people can actually have in their house, plus the power hammers, well, there's a finite number of them made. I mean, what is made is what's made. No, ain't nobody making any more of them.
Right.
And so working on there is kind of like tuning an old classic car, kind of, you know, there's like, well, combined with the Harley, because there's a lot of oil being sprung everywhere. And anyway, but yeah, the forging press is a neat, and of course it's quite a bit different design than most standard, and I think it'll solve the problems for a lot of people in that area as well.
Can you tell us about the Wuertz hammer-in?
So my hammering's coming up. So what a hammer is essentially is a knife making's gathering, and I'm sure they've been going on a long time, but the American Bladesmith Society, an organization dedicated to the fulfillment and progression of knife making, bladesmithing as a craft. And they kind of started out with hammer-ins. Well, mine not exactly directly affiliated. I have my own hammer-in. And we'll have 50, 60 people March 4th and 5th here at the farm, mostly watching classes, not so much hands-on with the people that come. But you know, multiple classes from blade grinding to forging Damascus to basic blade forging to handle construction folders, file work, inlay. Yeah, just about any of those classes have all been taught here. And a hammer-in is one of the best places for any guy seeking knife-making knowledge, experience, and those that are experts in the area to be able to pick a lot of brains in one spot and come away with a lot of new ideas on what it is you want to build.
Now that you've competed in and won 2 episodes of the History Channel's Forged in Fire, can you tell us about your experience on the show?
I had a lot of fun on Forged in Fire. Don't get me wrong, it's a pain in the ass. Because anytime you go under a time constraint or other people's rules and whatnot, it's going to be a little bit of a pain in the ass, but that's what makes it fun. And the whole competition is a competition with yourself. The other guys make it more fun. You know, I mean, like the prize money, it's not about the prize money. Granted, the prize money makes it to where we're able to do it. Otherwise, just too much time. You go, you know, all right, I wouldn't be able to afford to compete. Anyway, this wasn't really the direction I meant to go with that. But the Forged in Fire is a great experience. It's a great competition, and I don't think that the viewer really sees how good of a competition it is. When I say that it is live action. When that clock stops, that's exactly how it seems. You know, a lot of the other interviews are just done like this, and you know, so the action is real. When that clock starts, and there's 4 hours, that's what it is. When that clock starts, there's 3 hours, that's what it is. When they're in your home, it's a set amount of time supervised, and they take pictures of it before they leave. So there ain't no, you know, working 24 hours, working straight, whatever. No, it's regimented, and it's policed, and you're under the time constraints. And, you know, sometimes I watch it, and if I didn't know any better, I go, oh, horse shit, they had all week. Yeah, but a finite amount of time.
Right.
And, but it's fun. You know, like at my hammer-in, you get multiple guys working on projects, all swinging hammers, all making different stuff, kind of. And that's fun. You know, because that's just, I think that's as a community in that knife making, bladesmithing community, that's something that people enjoy. And so it's just there with a competition deal, but you know, the other guys, I mean, shit, anybody there would gladly help you if you needed it. Right. You know, so it makes it fun, and for me, it's about the only time I make a knife anymore. It's like, all right, Trav, you got to make this. All right.
What series of events led you to say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and give Forged in Fire a shot?
You know, I guess most of it, or I would say the biggest, if I had to blame one thing, if I had to credit one thing for making me go on Forged in Fire, it'd be my damn mouth. And that comes from people going, hey Trav, you think you can make a knife blade in 4 hours or 3 hours? I go, yeah, but it'd be pretty hard to figure out what I would do with the other 2 hours. And so you can only say that so many times before it's, well then, you know, okay, I guess I'll put in an application. So, hey, Forged in Fire guys, lady, oh guy, sorry, you sounded like a lady, but that's cool. Yeah, I want to be on Forged in Fire. Who are you? I'm Travis, I'm the guy that you want on Forged in Fire. Alright, call me back. Anyway, alright, so, you know, I put in the application and whatnot, and shit, it was fun, you know. I could go, and then of course in the first round I screwed up for the first 2 hours and had to make the whole damn thing in 1 hour and 45. So I go, good thing I screwed up. I almost look stupid. You know. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. But that was, you know, you don't grow up making knives up. Hey, why don't you do whatever? And then of course for me, well, I got over 1,000 grinders out there and 1,000 customers or whatnot that know I make grinders, but really had never seen a knife I made. And I go, well, I've been doing this since I was 12, you know. But then you go, no, I mean, I don't know what I'm doing. It's the grinder. The grinder is what makes it look good. I'm just hired to stand here. You know. So I go, damn it, screw you, Forged in Fire. You're gonna make it. You're gonna let everybody know that it's not just the machine. You know. But it was a fun time, and well, it worked out.
How hard is it to not talk about the show before it actually airs, especially when you know you won?
Not talking about the show is a bitch, you know, especially, you know, even now there's details of the show that I go, don't say too much, you don't want to get in trouble or whatnot, you know. And that goes from the filming process to other stuff. You know, they don't want you giving away details and stuff. And you know, by the time all's, damn it, I'm gonna give that. Anyway, it takes a lot more time to film these dang episodes and stuff than people think. You got a trip back there. You got the however many days to do the round 1 and 2. Then you fly back the next day. You fly back the next day. They're in your shop. That's day 1. 5 days, fly back, test the shit, fly back, you know, and all said and done, you know, it's a solid 3 weeks it takes out of your schedule. Man. You know, and for me, my business don't run if I'm not there. So for me, I shut down, you know, it basically shuts me down for about a month, and then while I'm shut down, sorry, well, what are you doing? Thing. Yeah, that's it. That's all. I'm doing a thing. Damn it. They told, you know, I said, you know, damn, I don't even have an excuse. I can't tell anybody and that's kind of frustrating. You got customers chomping a bit. I'd love to answer your phone right now, but I can't talk about it. I mean, the timings are obviously not by my choice or whatnot. And the last one was filmed out here is 114 degrees before we even lit the forge. And it's like, then you look at the wall and you're looking at shop temperature, go, oh, we're at 130. Great. This is nice. I don't even remember what the fucking question was.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but originally you didn't forge your own blades. When did you decide to try your hand at forging and make your own forge?
I guess originally I didn't start forging. I was like 13 and a half when I started forging, so.
Okay, so it's still early in your career.
Yeah, when I started, I took my first lesson from Tim Hancock. My dad drove me up to North Scottsdale where he was, dropped me off, and picked me up at the end of the day, and we had a couple knives. So that was my first lesson in knife making, and as we got a forge, got some other forging stuff. Another 6 months later, went back up, see Tim, watched him forge a blade, watched him do some Damascus, and he was always very, very patient. You're a 13-year-old kid, knowledgeable 13-year-old kid, and some that's actually putting the time in. But, like, Dad, can I call Tim? I gotta quit. Well, no, wait. But Dad, look, I made this. Can I call Tim now? Okay, Dad, I got 5 things and I fucked up all of them. Can I call Tim? Okay, you can call Tim. All right, thanks, Dad. So as a 13-year-old kid, I'm calling him, and every question I have, you take the time to answer. And I wasn't, I started doing the knife making, doing the stock removal, because everything ends with the grinder anyway. Whether you shape it with a hammer, whether you shape it with a saw, whether you shape it with a grinder, it's going to end up at the grinder.
Right. So
it's learn to grind first, and then learn to forge, and then everything kind of goes from there.
Can you explain what Damascus is?
So, Damascus essentially, or Damascus steel. Damascus steel is essentially pattern welded steel. And the Damascus that word gets thrown around for a lot of stuff, but it's the accepted term for a laminated steel blade, essentially. And so what's happening there is we're taking 2 different types of steel, differing qualities, but usually one steel is going to have a characteristic that resists acid. So maybe it has chromium in it, maybe it has nickel in it. And the other steel is going to be something that doesn't resist acid or whatnot. And we're going to stack a bunch of pieces of them together, 10, 20 layers or whatnot. And we'll prep that in a billet, and we'll stick it in the forge and bring it up to its forge welding temperature and hammer that together. So now we'll have a block of steel that's 2 different types of steel, of 2 different properties, that later on are going to show up when we stick it in acid. But essentially we take those 20 layers and then we're going to start messing with them. So some patterns I might take 20 layers and squish it down, draw it out long, and twist it. Maybe you flatten that out and then it's kind of lines. Maybe you draw it out into long pieces and put multiples together, twisted different ways, like the Vikings kind of did and other cultures. And there's all kinds of different patterns. And some patterns are going to look better with a high layer count. Meaning we're going to start with that 20, we're going to draw it out, we're going to fold it over, we're going to bring it back to welding temp, we're going to forge weld it together, draw it out. I got 40 layers. Fold it over, I got 80, fold it over, I got 160, fold it over, I got 320. For most patterns and stuff, you start going above 320 layers, the grains get so fine. So you have 320 layers in that big surface. Well, see, anyway, they're pretty fine.
Right.
But different patterns kind of call for different layer counts to look cool, and you're getting end grains and cross sections, and guys are doing some amazing stuff right now. The patterns that I really have no idea what they are, but I go, cool. Yeah.
Forged and Fire has shown us that you can make some iconic blade styles from the past. Have you ever considered seeing if you could replicate actual iconic weapons like Excalibur, Final Fantasy's Buster Sword, He-Man's Sword of Power.
Movie swords. I like movie swords. You know, there's some cool movie swords. I watch, you know, I watch Lord of the Rings and go, yeah, maybe I need to go build me some swords or something. Or I'll watch some other movie and go, I'm gonna go build me some swords. But then I make it out in the shop and go, fuck, I gotta build grinders. And that's how it ends, you know. Now there are, you know, Viking Sword, that was something that I always kind of wanted to build, but it was actually frustrating because I would like to go full blown and, you know, multiple Damascus bars, you know, 14 to 20 layers a piece, 6 bars, twisted different directions, reforged together. But I'm not going to take the time right now. I'm so swamped with grinders and stuff that it's really hard to find the time to do a lot of the knife making stuff. You know, unless I justify it as an instructional video or something, or like, okay, here I'm going to use the footage and here's a how-to when I use the sword is not to make the sword, but to make the process. And more of my knife making these days is to show a process. And, you know, yeah, there's some swords I want to make and stuff, but I just go, well, nobody's going to pay, well, I guess now somebody would pay me for them, but, anyway, it just hadn't happened.
Right.
So, yes.
Yes. Awesome.
It just hasn't happened.